On 6th of December 2025, the Tower of London was forced to temporarily close part of its jewel house after 4 protesters targeted the display case containing the Imperial State Crown. The group, later linked to the activist organisation Take Back Power, threw apple crumble and poured custard over the protective glass surrounding the crown, before holding up a sign that read, "Democracy has crumbled, tax the rich," making clear that the act was intended as a political statement rather than a random act of vandalism. Police were called to the scene and arrested the 4 individuals on suspicion of criminal damage. Although the attack appeared dramatic, historic royal palaces confirmed that the crown itself had not been harmed, as only the external display case was affected. The protest sparked widespread public reaction, not only because it targeted one of the United Kingdom's most recognizable national symbols, but also because it followed a growing trend of activists choosing high-profile cultural or heritage sites to amplify messages about wealth inequality and political reform. The Jewel House reopened later that day once the case was cleaned and secured, though the incident reignited debates about security, museum protections, and the ethics of disruptive protest tactics in the name of social change. On the 6th of December, at about 9:48 a.m., the police received reports that protesters had thrown apple crumble and generous amounts of bright yellow custard at the glass display case protecting the Imperial State Crown, part of the kingdom's historic crown jewels. This came only a few days after the public stunt at the glamorous Ritz, where supporters of the group marched into the luxury hotel's lobby with horse manure, depositing it on the hotel's large Christmas tree, and stood outside with placards stating, "Inequality is shit and tax the rich." One of the protesters slammed a foil tray of crumble against the glass and another poured custard over it, while a security guard tried to intervene and alerted authorities. Moments later, the activists revealed that they were from Take Back Power, opened their coats to show T-shirts with the group's name, and shouted slogans like, "Democracy has crumbled and Britain is broken. We've come here to the jewels of the nation to take back power." That action forced the closure of the Jewel House for a period as police investigated. 4 members of the group were arrested on suspicion of criminal damage. The group published footage of the event on social media to draw further attention to their demands. They want a permanent, legally empowered citizens' assembly to tackle wealth inequality and allow democratic control over taxation of extreme wealth. Apple crumble is a beloved British dessert. As it associates with crumbling, it's possible it was chosen as a literal visual metaphor for their political message, to show that just as the crumble collapses into pieces, so too, in their view, has Britain's democratic system fallen apart. Splattered on the glass of the nation's most treasured royal artifact, a symbolic commentary critiquing Britain's political decay visually suggests the foundations of political power, once revered like the crown, are now, in their eyes, as fragile and messy as a smashed pudding. Immediately after the defacement happened, officers from the Metropolitan Police Service, working alongside security staff, including those responsible for guarding the tower, swiftly intervened. 4 people were arrested shortly after the event on suspicion of criminal damage. According to police and subsequent official statements, the arrest took place shortly after the incident was reported.
While the display case was temporarily closed for investigation and cleaning, officials from historic royal palaces, which manages the tower, confirmed that the crown jewels themselves, including the Imperial State Crown, were not damaged.
As of now, the 4 detainees remain in custody under suspicion of criminal damage while investigations continue. The arrests and the ensuing inquiry will help determine whether charges are formally brought, likely depending on factors such as intent, actual damage, and possible risk to the artifacts or wider security protocols at the tower. The time between these two events on 03 and 06 deck was only 3 days. For the Parliament to have noticed and listed to the activist requests would have required more than just 3 days. It takes months, years even, to pass new laws required to begin taxing the rich. So, whilst I sympathise with their cause, I'm unsure what sort of response they wanted in such a short time frame. Do you feel the rich should be taxed, and that by so doing, this would actually fix Britain? Comment down below and let me know. Take Back Power appears to be a recently formed non-violent civil resistance group in the UK whose core aim is to challenge extreme wealth inequality and push for more direct democratic control over economic policy. They demand the government create a permanent, legally binding citizens' assembly, a house of the people, with the power to tax extreme wealth and fix Britain. They have already staged several provocative public protests to draw attention to their message. For example, on 3rd of December 2025, they dumped bags of horse manure beneath the lobby Christmas tree of a luxury hotel in London, which they used to symbolise disgust with wealth inequality. 2 days later, just before the dramatic action at the Tower of London, Take Back Power supporters delivered an ultimatum letter to the Prime Minister demanding immediate action on wealth inequality, saying that polite appeals have failed, and warning that civil disobedience will continue until a citizens' assembly is established. The group frames itself as non-hierarchical and grassroots, not a traditional political party or membership organisation, but a movement of ordinary people, nurses, students, ex-workers, etc., affected by economic hardship, homelessness, and what they view as entrenched elite power. Their slogan, "Tax the rich to fix Britain," underlines their belief that the wealthy elite hold disproportionate economic and political influence, which has contributed to social crises like poverty, unaffordable housing, and underfunded public services. Because Take Back Power is so new and relatively loose, more a network of activists than a formal organisation with long-established structure, public information on its membership, leadership, or broader strategy remains scarce. What we know is largely from their own public statements and the protests they've claimed responsibility for. Their recent attack on a culturally significant heritage site, albeit one protected behind glass, shows they are willing to use dramatic confrontational tactics to draw media attention and spark debate over inequality and democratic reform. The Tower of London is one of Britain's most iconic heritage sites, a fortress, palace, prison and royal stronghold, whose layered history spans nearly a millennium. Among its most famous attractions is the display of the crown jewels of the United Kingdom housed in the fortress's secure exhibition space, the Jewel House, which draws visitors from around the world. The crown jewels collection held there, one of the most complete and historically significant regalia sets in the world, includes ornate crowns, scepters, orbs, and ceremonial objects used in coronations and state occasions, many decorated with thousands of precious stones. The Imperial State Crown, for example, is studded with thousands of diamonds, sapphires, emeralds, rubies, and pearls. Visiting the Jewel House is included in the standard admission ticket to the tower. Tickets cost around $35.80 for an adult and allow several hours to explore the tower grounds, including the crown jewels, the historic White Tower, the battlements, the old prison towers, and guided tours led by the traditional yeoman warders, beefeaters, who live and work at the tower. Inside the Jewel House, the display is carefully designed to protect and showcase the treasures. The collection is behind bomb-proof glass, under constant surveillance, and security is managed by a combination of guards and the tower's traditional military-based guard corps. For many visitors, the crown jewels are the single most compelling reason to visit. They connect living Britain with centuries of monarchy, pageantry, and national memory. The experience combines awe at the craftsmanship and gemwork with a tangible sense of history, since these pieces have featured in coronations and ceremonies for generations, because the Tower of London offers more than just jewels. From grim prison history to medieval fortifications, royal residences, ravens, historic ceremonies and dramatic architecture. Visiting the crown jewels often becomes part of a broader journey through Britain's layered past. For many people, that blend of spectacular royal regalia plus deep history turns the tower into a must-see landmark when in London. The Imperial State Crown is one of the most powerful and instantly recognizable symbols of monarchy in the country of the United Kingdom. A lavish, historic object that embodies centuries of tradition, authority, and national identity. Crafted in 1937 for the coronation of King George VI, though based on an earlier crown made for Queen Victoria in 1838, it remains in use for major royal and state ceremonies. The crown, a masterpiece of craftsmanship, stands around 31.5 centimeters tall, weighs about 1.06 kilos, and is constructed from gold, silver, and platinum. Its frame is decorated with thousands of precious stones, nearly 2,168 diamonds, along with sapphires, emeralds, pearls, and rubies, including some of the most storied gems in the entire royal collection. The 317-carat Cullinan II diamond, the famed Black Prince's ruby, actually a red spinel, the ancient St. Edward's sapphire, and the Stuart sapphire. Symbolically, it represents the sovereignty of the monarch, a visible, tangible emblem of the crown's absolute authority. That the monarch, and by extension the state, stands above all earthly powers. Historically, English and then British rulers chose a closed crown, topped by arches and a cross, to convey that sovereignty was not subject to any foreign or spiritual overlord. Ceremonially, it's worn when a monarch leaves the coronation service and for formal state occasions, such as the state opening of Parliament, where the sovereign appears wearing the crown to formally open the parliamentary session, underscoring the unity of monarchy and the state. When not in active use, the crown, along with other regalia, resides on public display in the secure jewel house of Tower of London, drawing millions of visitors and serving as a bridge between living monarchy and historical legacy. Beyond its ceremonial and symbolic functions, the Imperial State Crown is a repository of history. Many of its stones, like the Black Prince's ruby, carry stories from medieval battles and royal lineages. The Cullinan II diamond itself originates from what was once the largest gem-quality diamond ever found. Through the generations, as monarchs changed and political landscapes evolved, the crown has remained a consistent emblem, a visible, enduring sign of continuity, power, tradition, and identity.